So maybe you have been learning a lot of vocabulary and grammar in a new language and you feel confident, but have you also learned how the culture affects the way people communicate? Knowing a lot of vocabulary and grammar is not always enough to effectively communicate in a foreign language. Why? Because each culture reflects its own set of cultural norms and social dynamics, and we have to learn how these affect communication. My name is Dean Keeley, Professor of Cross-Cultural Management and Communication, and I have lectured on this subject for 32 years, and I have experience in dozens of languages and cultures. So today, I'm here to share with you insights about cross-cultural communication. Cultures can generally be divided into two types, collectivist and individualistic. Individualistic cultures emphasize personal goals and independence. People value individual achievements and express their opinions directly. On the other hand, collectivist cultures prioritize group harmony and cooperation. In these cultures, avoiding conflict and maintaining a positive group dynamic is crucial. As a result, communication tends to be more indirect. People often express their thoughts and opinions in a way that maintains harmony within the group. So when interacting with people from a collectivist culture, it's important to be aware of the indirect communication style. In this video, I'll explore the nuanced way in which various collectivist cultures express disagreement. I will offer examples from Japan, China, Thailand, Indonesia, and Colombia in the local languages. Let's dive right in by taking a look at this map that shows the degree of collectivism in various countries around the globe. You can see the countries I have chosen are highly collectivist. In contrast to these collectivist cultures, people in highly individualistic countries, such as the United States, value individual expression and the free exchange of ideas. Direct communication is generally accepted, and people may express disagreement openly. People believe you should say what you mean and mean what you say. So let's take a look at the types of indirect communication strategies used in Japan, China, Thailand, Indonesia, and Colombia. And I will give you some examples in each language along with translation in English. In general, each of these cultures has phrases to express no indirectly, phrases to soften a negative opinion, ways to show politeness and humility, and they often express agreement before getting to what they disagree about. In Japanese culture, maintaining harmony and using indirect speech are an important part of communication. So instead of a direct no, Japanese might say, Chotto muskashii desu ne. It's a little bit difficult, isn't it? When I first arrived in Japan 42 years ago, I remember that I had a problem understanding that Chotto muskashii desu ne actually means that's impossible. I thought, well, it may be difficult, but you can do it anyway, right? Instead of expressing a negative opinion directly, Japanese might say, Mou skoshi kangaeta hou ga ii kamoshirenai ne. Maybe we need to think about this a bit more. In Japanese, there are many variations of this, and what you say depends on the relative age and relationship between the two people interacting. Using polite language and expressions of humility are used to express disagreement respectfully. One might say, Watashi chotto chigau kangaekata o shitemasu. I have a slightly different perspective. Also, it is best that you emphasize agreement before expressing disagreement. For example, もちろんその考え方も理解できますが, of course, I can understand that perspective, but now let's look at Chinese culture. Instead of directly saying no, Chinese might say, 可能有一些困难. There might be some difficulties. It is very similar to what is said in Japanese. In China, we can also soften the impact of disagreement with phrases such as 我理解你的观点，但是 I understand your perspective, but. And in Chinese, you should also use polite language and expressions of humility in order to convey disagreement respectfully to your elders. Instead of saying 我不同意你的看法, I don't agree with your opinion, you might say, 对不起，我可能理解有一些不同. I'm sorry, I might understand it a bit differently. To emphasize agreement before introducing a different opinion, you might say, 我理解你的想法，而且在某种程度上，我同意，但是 I understand your idea, and to some extent I agree, but in Thai culture there's a concept of Krengjai, which involves being considerate to others and avoid causing inconvenience or trouble to them. From my experience in actual academic research, I can say that Thai people are more careful to avoid conflict and maintain harmony in the workplace than Japanese are. The Thai way to express no indirectly include phrases such as "my nejai," I'm not sure. "Rung ni yung yak noi," this matter is a bit complicated. And we can soften the impact of disagreement with phrases such as "เข้าใจที่คุณมองเห็นแบบนั้นแต่" I understand how you see it, but an example of polite language and an expression of humility to convey disagreement respectfully is ขอโทษแต่ดังที่เราเห็น I'm sorry, but based on what I see. And to express agreement first, you can say เข้าใจและเห็นด้วยแบบประการแต่ I understand and agree to some extent, but also note that there are 13 different Thai smiles, each with a special meaning. Smiles are an important part of Thai nonverbal communication. An example is the Yin Tak Tan smile, which is the I disagree with you smile, also known as you can go ahead and propose it, but your idea is no good smile. Now let's look at Indonesian culture. Instead of a direct no, Indonesians will say, "Mungkin agak sulit ya," which means maybe it's a little difficult, just like it's said in Japanese and Chinese. Disagreement is softened with phrases such as "Saya mengerti perspektif Anda tetapi," I understand your perspective but, or "Mungkin kita bisa pertimbangkan opsi lain," perhaps we can look at other opportunities. Polite language and expressions of respect include "Maaf, saya pikir ada sedikit perbedaan pandangan." Sorry, I think there's a slight difference in our views. To emphasize agreement first, you can say, "Saya memahami pendapat Anda dan saya setuju sebagian, tetapi I understand your opinion and I agree to an extent, but..." Okay, finally we come to Colombian culture. Colombia is an example of a non-Asian country that is also quite collectivist and uses indirect communication. Instead of saying no, you could say, "Vamos a ver, let's see, lo pensaré, I'll think about it. Es complicado, it's complicated." Colombians might soften the impact of disagreement with phrases like, "Entiendo tu punto de vista, pero..." I understand your point of view, but... Podría ser, sin embargo, it could be, but nevertheless. And like the other cultures, they might say, "Podríamos considerar otras alternativas." We could consider other alternatives. And finally, to express agreement first, you could say, "Estoy de acuerdo en muchos aspectos, sin embargo, I agree on many points, nevertheless." So, how about your culture or other languages and cultures that you know? Please leave a comment and tell us. Thank you for joining me on this journey in the subtle art of expressing disagreement in collectivist cultures. See you in the next video.